I'm 54 years old, and technology still feels like a foreign language I'm too proud to admit I don't speak. When my gallery director suggested I take an online watercolor course to improve my digital marketing skills, I nearly laughed in her face. Grace Cox, botanical illustrator extraordinaire, reduced to fumbling with screen-sharing buttons like some confused teenager. But here I am, Tuesday evening, staring at my laptop screen while 20-something art students display their work with the confidence of digital natives. My fingers hover over the keyboard, auburn hair falling into my green eyes as I squint at the tiny icons scattered across my screen. Grace, would you like to share your wildflower series? Professor Martinez's voice crackles through my speakers. Damn. I click what I think is the right button, and instead of my carefully photographed illustrations, my desktop wallpaper fills the screen, a close-up shot of mountain columbines I took last summer. Having trouble with the screen share? A warm voice asks through the chat. I glance at the name. Quinn Scott. Her video shows a woman with blonde hair and striking blue eyes, probably in her 30s, sitting in what looks like a home office filled with books and artifacts. Technology and I aren't exactly best friends, I type back, my cheeks burning with embarrassment. I can walk you through it if you want. Mind if I send you a private message? I accept her chat request, and suddenly we're in a separate conversation window. Her instructions are clear, patient, nothing like the rushed technical support I've endured from younger gallery assistants who treat me like I'm ancient. There you go, Quinn types as my botanical illustrations finally appear on screen. Beautiful work, by the way. The detail in those stamens is incredible. Something about her knowing the proper term for flower parts catches my attention. Most people just say pretty and move on. After class ends, instead of logging off immediately like usual, I find myself typing to Quinn again. Thank you for the help. I'm Grace, by the way. Quinn. I'm an archaeologist, actually, just taking this course during my sabbatical. Archaeologist? That's fascinating. What kind of sites do you work on? Our conversation flows naturally, spanning everything from preservation techniques to the challenge of documenting delicate subjects, whether they're ancient pottery shards or ephemeral wildflowers. She tells me about excavations in remote southwest locations, while I describe my mountain expeditions searching for rare alpine species. An hour passes before I realize we're the only ones still in the virtual classroom. I should probably let you go, Quinn types. But this has been really nice. Same time next week? Yes, I respond, surprised by how much I'm looking forward to it. As I close my laptop, I catch my reflection in the dark screen. When did I start smiling like that? Our Tuesday sessions become the highlight of my week, though I'd die before admitting that to anyone. What started as technical assistance has evolved into something I can't quite name. Quinn's voice through my laptop speakers feels more intimate than most conversations I have in person. This week's assignment involves painting from memory, and I'm sharing my technique for capturing the translucent quality of glacier lily petals when Quinn interrupts. You hike alone to find these? She asks, genuine concern in her voice. For 30 years, I reply. The best specimens are always in the most remote locations. Sounds dangerous and lonely. Something in her tone makes me pause. I prefer solitude for my work. But don't you ever want someone to share those moments with, those perfect discoveries? The question catches me off guard. I've built my entire adult life around independence, around not needing anyone else's validation or company. But lately, especially during these conversations with Quinn, that carefully constructed solitude feels less like strength and more like fear. Tell me about your last excavation, I say, redirecting. Quinn describes a Pueblo site near Mesa Verde, her enthusiasm infectious as she explains pottery reconstruction techniques. Her passion reminds me of my own excitement when I first started illustrating, before galleries and sales figures complicated the pure joy of creating. I'd love to illustrate archaeological finds someday, I admit. There's something appealing about documenting history. Really? Most artists think artifacts are boring. Most artists haven't spent decades drawing the same wildflowers. Besides, preservation is preservation, whether it's capturing a flower's essence before it wilts or documenting a pot shard before it crumbles. Our conversation extends well past class time again. I find myself buying better coffee for our Tuesday sessions, even applying lipstick before logging on. It's ridiculous behavior for a woman my age, but Quinn's opinion matters in ways I don't want to examine too closely. Grace, Quinn says during our third extended chat, I know this might sound forward, but I'm going to be in Aurora next week for a research meeting. Would you like to grab coffee? In person, I mean. My hand freezes over the keyboard. Meeting in person feels like crossing a line I didn't know existed. Our digital relationship exists in a safe bubble where age differences, and whatever this attraction is, can remain undefined. I'd like that, I type before I can change my mind. Great. There's a place called Mountain View Cafe downtown. Saturday at 2? Perfect. After we log off, I sit in my studio staring at my latest botanical series. When did my carefully ordered life become so complicated? When did a stranger's voice start mattering more than my established routines and carefully maintained independence? I catch myself checking my reflection in every mirror I pass, wondering what Quinn expects to see when we finally meet face to face. Saturday afternoon finds me changing clothes 3 times before settling on a simple blue sweater that brings out my eyes. I haven't been this nervous about meeting someone in years, maybe decades. The 20-year age difference seems more significant now that we're moving beyond computer screens. Mountain View Cafe sits in Aurora's historic district, all exposed brick and vintage furniture. I arrive first, claiming a corner table where I can watch the door. When Quinn walks in, my breath catches. She's smaller than I imagined, more delicate, but her presence fills the space immediately. Those blue eyes scan the room until they find mine, and her smile transforms her entire face. Grace? She approaches confidently, extending her hand. You're even more beautiful than I expected. Heat rushes to my cheeks. Flatterer. Just honest. We order coffee, and conversation flows as naturally as it does online. Quinn tells me about her research into pre-Columbian trade routes, while I describe my latest commission documenting endangered alpine species. Her intelligence is captivating, the way she connects historical patterns to modern conservation efforts. Your work has real impact, Quinn says, leaning forward. Those illustrations could be the only record of some species in 50 years. That's depressing. No, it's important. You're creating history. The way she says it makes my chest tighten. Nobody's ever described my work as creating history before. It's always been pretty pictures of flowers, decorative art for wealthy collectors. Want to see the botanical gardens? Quinn suggests after we finish our coffee. I've been wanting to visit since I moved here. Outside, spring air carries the scent of blooming trees. We walk slowly through the gardens, Quinn asking detailed questions about plant identification that reveal genuine curiosity, not polite conversation. Near the rose section, she stops walking. Grace, can I ask you something personal? My stomach clenches. Sure. Have you ever been with a woman? The question hangs between us like morning mist. Direct, unavoidable, changing everything. Once, I admit. In college. Before I convinced myself it was just experimentation. And now? Now I'm 54, and wondering why I spent 30 years lying to myself. Quinn steps closer, close enough that I can see gold flecks in her blue eyes. Age is just a number, Grace. 20 years isn't just a number. Maybe not. But this connection we have, whatever this is, it's real. I feel it, and I think you do too. Before I can overthink it, she reaches up and kisses me softly, barely a brush of lips against lips. It's gentle, questioning, giving me space to pull away. Instead, I find myself kissing her back, my hand finding her cheek. When we separate, I'm trembling slightly. Come back to my place, I hear myself saying. I want to show you my studio. Quinn nods, and we walk back to her car in charged silence. My apartment fills with nervous energy as I unlock the door. 30 years of botanical illustrations cover every wall, organized by season and elevation. Quinn moves through the space with reverence, studying each piece like she's examining archaeological artifacts. These are incredible, she says, stopping before my alpine series. The detail, the emotion you capture in something as simple as a wildflower. Not simple, I correct. Complex. Each one has adapted to survive in impossible conditions. She turns to face me. Like you. The space between us seems to vibrate with possibility and fear. This attraction defies everything I thought I knew about myself, about what I wanted from life. But standing here with Quinn, surrounded by decades of my work, I realize I'm tired of surviving. I want to live. Quinn starts spending evenings at my apartment, and somehow my carefully ordered solitude transforms into something warmer, more alive. She sits cross-legged on my studio floor, organizing decades of botanical illustrations while I work on a new commission. Her system makes sense, chronological, then by elevation, something I never managed in 30 years of collecting my own work. You documented the entire ecosystem, she says, holding up illustrations from different decades. This is like watching climate change happen in real time. I never thought about it that way. That's because you're too close to your own genius. She says things like that casually, as if brilliance is something she sees in me every day. It's intoxicating and terrifying, being viewed through her eyes instead of my own critical gaze. Thursday evening, Quinn mentions a petroglyph site she needs to document near Aurora, something about Native American trading routes. Want to come along this weekend? I could use an artist's perspective on the symbols. You want me to leave the city? I laugh. For camping? For adventure. When's the last time you did something spontaneous? The answer is never. My life runs on schedules, routines, predictable patterns that keep my work flowing and my world manageable. But Quinn's excitement is contagious, and I find myself agreeing to something completely outside my comfort zone. Saturday morning, we load her Jeep with camping gear and drive into the canyon country outside Aurora. The petroglyph site sits on a sandstone cliff, overlooking miles of high desert. Ancient symbols carved into rock faces by people who understood this landscape better than we ever will. Quinn moves between the rock panels with professional focus, photographing each symbol from multiple angles while I sketch the overall composition. Working together feels natural, our different skills complementing each other perfectly. As evening approaches, we set up camp below the cliff. Quinn builds a fire while I prepare dinner from supplies she packed with military precision. The domesticity surprises me. How easily we fall into shared tasks, how comfortable silence can be between two people. The stars out here are incredible, Quinn says, as darkness settles around us. We lie on our backs beside the dying fire, and I'm overwhelmed by the vastness above us. In the city, I forget how small and significant we are simultaneously. Grace? Quinn's voice is soft in the darkness. Yeah? I'm falling in love with you. My breath catches. Love feels too big, too dangerous for someone like me who's spent decades avoiding exactly this kind of vulnerability. Quinn, you don't have to say anything back. I just needed you to know. But I do want to say something back. Her honesty deserves honesty in return. I turn toward her in the darkness, finding her face by touch more than sight, and kiss her with everything I've been holding back. She responds immediately, her hands tangling in my hair as we discover each other under the Colorado stars. Our joining is tender and fierce simultaneously, years of loneliness dissolving into connection and need, and something that might actually be love. Later, wrapped in sleeping bags and each other's arms, I whisper against her hair, I'm falling too. Back in Aurora, we establish routines that feel surprisingly natural. Quinn helps me digitize my analog portfolio for gallery submissions, her technical skills transforming my careful photography into professional presentations. I start illustrating her field discoveries, pottery shards and arrowheads rendered with the same precision I bring to wildflowers. You're documenting my work better than I ever could, she says, watching me add details to a Pueblo pottery fragment illustration. Different skills, same goal. Preservation. Exactly. Our relationship settles into comfortable rhythms. Quinn stays over most nights, and I discover I like sharing my space with someone who understands the importance of quiet work time. She respects my morning routine. I respect her need to organize everything into labeled containers. It's Thursday evening, 3 months after our first camping trip, when the certified letter arrives. The certified letter sits on my kitchen counter like a bomb waiting to explode. Trinity Griffin Holdings, LLC. The letterhead means nothing to me, but the content makes my hands shake as I read it aloud to Quinn. All residents must vacate the premises within 30 days of this notice or face immediate eviction proceedings. The building has been sold and will undergo extensive renovations. 30 days? Quinn looks up from her laptop. That's barely legal notice. Legal enough, apparently. I sink into my chair, staring at the walls covered with 30 years of my work. This studio isn't just where I live. It's where I became an artist, where every important illustration was born. Grace, breathe. We'll figure this out. We? The The word slips out sharper than I intended. Quinn's face changes, becomes more careful. I meant, you have your own place. Your lease isn't up. This is my problem. I thought maybe we could look for something together. The suggestion hangs between us like a challenge. Living together, moving in together after only 3 months. The idea terrifies me more than losing my studio. I can't think about that right now. When can you think about it? I don't know. Over the next few days, we receive visits from other tenants. Mrs. Chen from 2B has lived here 15 years. The art students on the 3rd floor are panicking about finding affordable space near campus. Everyone's angry, but anger doesn't change certified letters or mysterious real estate companies. I did some research, Quinn says Friday evening. Trinity Griffin Holdings owns 12 buildings in Aurora, all bought in the last 2 years. They evict everyone, renovate, then rent at triple the price. Gentrification with a corporate face. Exactly. But Grace, this could be an opportunity. For us. There's that word again, us. As if we're an established unit, a couple who makes major life decisions together. The assumption makes my chest tight. I need to focus on finding a studio space. Somewhere with north light, reasonable rent. What about a place we both love? Something bigger? Quinn, we've been together 3 months. So normal people don't move in together after 3 months. Normal people don't have what we have. She's right, and that scares me even more. What we have is intense, consuming. The kind of connection that makes rational people do irrational things. Like 54-year-old women falling in love with 34-year-old archaeologists. Like rearranging carefully constructed lives around someone else's dreams. Saturday, we spend the day looking at apartments and studio spaces across Aurora. Everything suitable is either too expensive or lacks the natural light I need for color accuracy in my work. Quinn suggests spaces that would accommodate both my art supplies and her archaeological equipment, but I keep deflecting. This loft has great storage, she says, pointing to built-in shelving perfect for artifact cataloging. The light's wrong for painting. We could install better fixtures. With what money? With our money? Combined resources. Your money, you mean? I'm a freelance illustrator, not a tenured professor. Quinn stops walking. We're standing in the middle of an empty loft space, our voices echoing off bare walls. Is that what this is about? Money? It's about independence, about not losing myself in someone else's life. Loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself. How would you know? You're 34. You haven't spent decades building a life only to watch it change overnight because of someone else's feelings. Someone else's feelings? Is that what I am to you? The hurt in her voice makes me want to take back everything I just said, but fear keeps pushing words out. I don't know what you are. That's the problem. Quinn stares at me for a long moment, then heads toward the door. Call me when you figure it out. I stand alone in the empty loft, listening to her footsteps fade down the stairs, wondering if I just destroyed the best thing that's happened to me in years because I'm too scared to risk being hurt. The silence in my apartment feels different without Quinn's presence filling the spaces between my easel and workspace. 3 days pass without her usual evening visits. No technical support for my digital submissions. No gentle questions about my day's work. The loneliness hits harder because I've tasted what connection feels like. I throw myself into apartment hunting with desperate energy, visiting every studio space within my budget. Most are basement rooms with fluorescent lighting or converted garages that smell like motor oil. The few decent options require deposits I can't afford or leases that start after my eviction date. The place on Maple Street looked promising, I tell myself while reviewing rental listings for the 100th time. But even as I write down the contact information, I know it's a lie. The space was dark, cramped, nothing like the creative sanctuary I've built over 3 decades. My phone buzzes with texts from Quinn that I don't answer. Saw a perfect loft today. Can we at least talk about options together? Grace, I miss you. I miss her too, desperately. But admitting that feels like surrendering the independence I've guarded for so long. Wednesday morning brings another devastating apartment viewing. A studio above a restaurant that reeks of grease, with windows facing an alley. As I walk back to my car, defeat settling in my chest, my phone rings. Grace Cox? This is Helena Martinez from the Denver Museum of Natural History. We'd like to commission a series of illustrations for our endangered species exhibit. The position would require residency in Denver for 6 months. Denver. 3 hours away from Aurora, from Quinn, from this impossible housing situation that's forcing decisions I'm not ready to make. When would you need an answer? End of the week. It's excellent pay, and we'd provide studio space. After hanging up, I sit in my car outside the greasy studio apartment, staring at my phone. The Denver Commission solves everything. Housing, income, distance from relationship complications that scare me more than financial instability. But it also means running away. Again. Thursday evening, Quinn appears at my door with takeout containers and a determined expression. I know you're avoiding me, she says, pushing past my weak protests. But we need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. I might take a job in Denver. Denver? The takeout containers hit my counter with more force than necessary. You're leaving? It's a good opportunity. It's running away. It's practical. Bullshit, Grace. This is about us, about you being terrified of commitment. Don't psychoanalyze me. Then explain why you'd rather flee to Denver than consider building something real with me. The question hangs between us, sharp and unavoidable. Because she's right, I am terrified. Terrified of needing someone, of having my carefully constructed world depend on another person's choices and feelings. I've taken care of myself for 30 years, I say finally. And look where it's gotten you. Alone in an apartment you're about to lose, turning down love because it's inconvenient. This isn't love. It's infatuation. You barely know me. I know you organize your paint tubes by color temperature. I know you drink tea at exactly 4:30 every afternoon. I know you hum while you work, but only when you think nobody's listening. Her words hit like physical blows because they're true. Intimate details I didn't realize anyone noticed. I know you're scared, Quinn continues, her voice gentler. But I'm scared too. You think age protects you from hurt? It doesn't. Love is risk at any age. She moves closer, and I catch her familiar scent, something cleanly feminine mixed with the outdoors. Grace, I'm not asking you to give up your independence. I'm asking you to share it. With someone who loves your work, your mind, your stubborn dedication to impossible things. What if it doesn't work? What if it does? Standing in my soon-to-be former kitchen, surrounded by the detritus of a life I'm about to lose anyway, Quinn's question cuts through all my careful defenses. What if it does work? What if love doesn't mean losing myself but finding a bigger, braver version of who I could be? I look at this woman who sees me more clearly than I see myself, who offers partnership instead of possession. The loft on Harrison Street, I hear myself saying. Can we look at it again? The Harrison Street loft looks different in morning light, less intimidating and more like possibility. Quinn stands beside me as the landlord shows us through the space again, but I barely hear his sales pitch. Instead, I'm imagining my easel near the tall windows, Quinn's artifact storage along the far wall, our lives intersecting in this neutral territory. The deposit and first month's rent are due by Friday, the landlord says. You interested or not? I look at Quinn, seeing hope and patience in her expression. We need to discuss finances. Of course. Call me by tomorrow. After he leaves, we sit on the bare floor of what could become our shared space. The silence feels different than our recent conversations, less charged with conflict, more weighted with potential. I called the Denver Museum, I tell her. Turned down the commission. Quinn's face brightens. Really? Don't get excited yet. I'm still terrified about this whole thing. But you're willing to try. I'm willing to consider trying. The financial conversation proves more complex than either of us expected. Quinn's university salary provides stability, but my freelance income fluctuates wildly. Some months I earn enough to live comfortably, others barely cover basic expenses. We'll figure it out together, Quinn says. Your name on the lease too, equal partners. What if my work slows down? What if I can't contribute equally? Then you contribute what you can. Partnership isn't about perfect financial balance. Her certainty makes me want to believe her, but decades of self-reliance don't disappear overnight. That evening, I call my gallery director about upcoming commissions, trying to project income for the next year. Actually, Grace, I've been meaning to discuss something with you, Helena says. We're planning a solo exhibition of your botanical work, 30 years of mountain wildflower illustrations. It could be quite significant. A solo exhibition. Something I've dreamed about for decades but never pushed for. Too afraid of rejection to ask for what I wanted most. When would this happen? Next spring. We'd need your complete collection, properly archived and cataloged. After hanging up, I stare at my apartment walls covered with illustrations that could finally receive the recognition they deserve. But achieving this dream feels hollow without Quinn here to share the excitement. I text her. Can you come over? Good news to share. She arrives within 20 minutes, breathless from rushing up my stairs. When I tell her about the exhibition, she sweeps me into her arms and spins me around my kitchen. Grace, this is incredible. A career retrospective at your age. Most artists never get that recognition. At my age? Thanks for the reminder. You know what I meant. This validates everything you've worked for. Standing in Quinn's arms, feeling her joy for my success, I realize something fundamental has shifted. My achievements feel more meaningful when shared with someone who truly understands their significance. The loft, I say suddenly. Let's take it. Are you sure? No. But I'm tired of making every decision based on fear. Friday morning, we meet the landlord at his office to sign papers and write checks. My hands shake slightly as I sign the lease, legally binding myself to another person's dreams and choices. But Quinn squeezes my shoulder as I write my name, and the gesture feels like an anchor instead of a chain. Keys are yours on the first, the landlord says. Welcome to the building. Outside his office, Quinn pulls me aside. Grace, I know this is scary for you. If you need space or time to adjust, I silence her with a kiss that surprises us both with its intensity. When we separate, I'm breathing hard. Stop giving me escape routes, I tell her. I'm done running. That evening, we celebrate with dinner at the restaurant where we had our first official date. The same corner booth, the same nervous energy, but everything else has changed. A year ago, I thought my life was exactly what I wanted. I tell Quinn over wine. Predictable, independent, safe. And now? Now I think maybe I was just afraid to want more. Quinn reaches across the table to take my hand. I love you, Grace. However this works out, wherever we live, I love who you are. Even when I'm impossible, especially then. Walking back to my apartment, our last week in my apartment, I feel something I haven't experienced in decades. Not just happiness, but anticipation, excitement about an unknown future that includes another person's dreams alongside my own. Change has always terrified me, but maybe that's because I was facing it alone. Moving day arrives with unexpected sunshine, and a crew of friends Quinn recruited from the university archaeology department. I watch graduate students carry my decades of work with careful reverence, treating my botanical illustrations like the artifacts they catalog professionally. These boxes contain 30 years of Grace's career, Quinn announces, as she directs traffic between my old studio and our new loft. Handle them like you're moving museum pieces. The pride in her voice makes my chest warm. She's claiming ownership of my success, integrating my achievements into her world with natural ease that still surprises me. Our new space transforms as we arrange furniture and artwork. My easel finds perfect light near the tall windows, while Quinn's artifacts and reference books create scholarly corners that complement my creative chaos. Watching our possessions blend feels like watching our lives merge in real time. Where should this go? A student asks, holding a framed illustration of alpine forget-me-nots from my first mountain expedition. Living room wall, Quinn answers before I can respond. That piece represents Grace's breakthrough moment as an artist. She's right. That illustration marked my transition from hobbyist to professional, though I never told her that story specifically. How did you know? I ask later, when we're alone in the space that's officially ours. The way your signature changed on pieces after that date. More confident strokes. Her attention to those details makes me realize she's been studying my work with the same precision she brings to archaeological documentation. I'm not just her girlfriend. I'm a subject worthy of serious academic consideration. Evening finds us surrounded by boxes but finally alone in our shared space. Quinn orders pizza while I arrange my paint supplies in the custom storage she helped design. Everything fits perfectly, as if the loft was designed for our specific combination of creative needs. This feels right, I admit. Organizing brushes by size and wear patterns. Scary but right. The scary part gets easier. Does it? Ask me in 6 months. After dinner, we unpack Quinn's archaeological finds, pottery shards and arrowheads that she arranges on built-in shelves with museum-quality precision. I find myself sketching her movements, capturing the careful attention she devotes to each artifact. "You're drawing me," she notices without turning around. I'm documenting the archaeologist in her natural habitat. Very scientific. I learned from the best. She abandons her unpacking to look over my shoulder at the sketch. "Is that really how you see me?" The drawing shows her hands cradling a pottery fragment like something precious and fragile, her expression focused and tender simultaneously. "That's exactly how I see you." Quinn's arms slip around me from behind, her chin resting on my shoulder. I love this view of our life together. Our life. The phrase used to terrify me, but standing in our loft with my artwork on the walls and her books on the shelves, it feels less like surrender and more like expansion. Late that night, we make love in our shared bed for the first time. The intimacy feels different in this space that belongs to both of us. Less urgent than our early encounters, more settled and sure. Quinn's hands trace familiar paths across my skin, while I discover new ways to make her gasp my name. We take our time, savoring the luxury of privacy and permanence, building physical intimacy that matches our emotional connection. When we finally fall asleep tangled together, I dream of mountain wildflowers growing in archaeological sites, past and present intertwined like our bodies under shared blankets. Sunday morning, I wake to find Quinn already up, making coffee in our kitchen while reviewing research notes. The domestic scene hits me with unexpected force. This is what partnership looks like. Not grand romantic gestures, but quiet morning routines that accommodate each other's rhythms. "Good morning, beautiful," she says without looking up from her papers. "Good morning, archaeologist." How does it feel, waking up in our place? I consider the question seriously, while accepting the coffee she prepared exactly how I like it. How does it feel to share space with someone whose presence enhances rather than diminishes my sense of self? "Like home," I answer, surprising myself with the truth. "Yeah? Yeah. Like home." Quinn's smile could power our entire building, and I realize I've discovered something I didn't know I was missing. Not just love, but partnership. Not just passion, but permanence. 9 months into our shared life, my gallery exhibition opens to a crowd that surprises everyone, including me. The walls showcase 30 years of botanical illustrations arranged chronologically, telling the story of both my artistic evolution and Colorado's changing ecosystem. Quinn stands beside me at the opening, radiant in a black dress that makes her blue eyes luminous. She's memorized details about each piece, playing unofficial tour guide to visitors who want to understand the technical aspects of my work. This series documents climate migration, she explains to a collector studying my recent alpine illustrations. Grace has been tracking how elevation changes affect wildflower populations long before it became a mainstream environmental concern. Listening to her describe my work with such authority and respect makes me fall in love with her all over again. She doesn't just support my art, she elevates it, helps others recognize significance I've been too modest to claim. "The artist is here if you'd like to meet her," Quinn says, gesturing toward me with obvious pride. The collector approaches with questions about my documentation methods, and I find myself discussing scientific accuracy with confidence I never possessed before Quinn entered my life. Her belief in my work has changed how I present myself, less apologetic hobbyist, more serious professional. 30 years of dedication, the collector says. This represents remarkable consistency of vision. Later, Helena from the gallery pulls me aside. "Grace, we've received serious inquiries about pieces. This could be career-changing sales." Career-changing. At 55, I'm finally receiving recognition that eluded me for decades. But the success feels meaningful primarily because Quinn is here to witness it, to celebrate achievements she helped me recognize as worthy of celebration. "How does it feel?" Quinn asks as we walk through the exhibition together after most guests have departed. "Unreal. Like I'm watching someone else's opening. This is yours, Grace. You earned every bit of this recognition." We pause before my latest series. Illustrations created after we moved in together, pieces that show subtle influences of Quinn's archaeological perspective. The wildflowers are rendered with more attention to environmental context, botanical subjects placed within specific geological settings. "My work changed after I met you," I tell her. "How?" broader perspective, less isolated focus. Like I started seeing individual flowers as part of larger systems. Just like relationships. Exactly like relationships. 6 weeks after the exhibition, Quinn receives notice about a prestigious research grant that would fund her work for the next 3 years. The grant allows her to base operations in Aurora rather than traveling constantly, meaning we can build the domestic stability we've both grown to cherish. This changes everything, she says, waving the approval letter. I can take on graduate students, establish a proper research lab. Congratulations, Professor, I tease, wrapping my arms around her waist. Not professor yet, but someday. I believe in someday. Our first year together ends with quiet celebration in our loft. No dramatic gestures or grand proclamations, just the satisfaction of having built something sustainable together. My artwork covers our walls alongside Quinn's artifacts, creating visual proof that different passions can coexist beautifully. Remember when you thought we were too different to work? Quinn asks, curled against me on our couch. I thought a lot of stupid things. Such as? That independence meant isolation. That needing someone made me weak. That age differences mattered more than genuine connection. And now? Now I think I wasted a lot of years being afraid of exactly this. Quinn's hand finds mine, fingers intertwining with familiar comfort. No waste. Everything led us here. Outside our windows, Aurora's lights twinkle against mountain silhouettes. Inside our shared space, surrounded by evidence of our combined lives, I feel something I never expected at this stage of life. Complete contentment mixed with excited anticipation for whatever comes next. I love you, I tell Quinn, words that no longer scare me. I love you too. Simple words that changed everything, that transformed my carefully constructed solitude into partnership worth every risk I was initially too afraid to take.